Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're learning finger-picking etude number 23. So I went ahead and simplified it and gave this etude a bit of a nickname. I'm going to call it Slides, much easier to remember. So with our etude series, it gives me the opportunity to write a composition that focuses on one concept. And the concept for this composition, as the name implies, is, well, slides. So this is a etude that is intended for someone who's done slides in the past and you're looking for a piece of music to learn that focuses on just that one technique. So it's not an introductory lesson to doing slides. So if you're looking for an intro lesson for doing slides and just getting started, then I'd recommend jumping into our beginners course. There's an entire lesson in that course that's devoted to teaching you the mechanics behind doing the technique. There's a few exercises in that lesson. They're much better suited for your first foray into doing slide technique. So with that in mind, this piece of music is more so for that intermediate player, someone who's done it for a bit and are just looking for, working on it and getting better at it in your playing. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, we're going to be learning the entire song. But if you guys want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, you can do so by clicking this link or going to the site. You can do a search for fingerpicking etude 23, or you can just simply type slides. That'll be the easier way. Now also on that page is the on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play. You can watch the tab scroll across in real time. You can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a really great asset for learning this song that much easier. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into learning this piece of music. So there's a few things that we want to touch on first. The first thing is that I'm playing on my low G ukulele. So the low G just gives it a really cool sound. So as we're playing throughout this piece of music, there's basically a sustaining G note for anything that we're playing that's based out of the G chord. So you can just hear this beautiful sustain of the G over the entire phrase. And then we have another, as we switch to the 4 chord in this song, the C chord. Again, the C is a low pitch as well, and we have this beautiful sustain. So my recommendation is to play it with a low G ukulele. You can do it on a high G, but it's going to sound the best with a low G. Now, as far as our right hand picking, we can use a 4-finger approach. That means that thumb gets string 4, index gets string 3, middle gets string 2, ring gets string number 1. So that's going to be the easiest approach. Now, as we play through this tune, it's an A-B form. So we have basically just A to B to A. So you can see right there, I'll put the form up. And that simply means that we have an A melody and a B melody. Now the A melody is all devoted to working on slide technique. The B melody is just straight up finger picking, and I put it in this composition. I threw this part in just to make it sound more like a song. So it's not really going to work on slides at all, but it's going to make this piece of music sound more like a song instead of just a straight up phrasing and etude and stuff. So I think that's everything I want to cover. As we work through this piece of music, we're going to be approaching playing it two ways. We're going to be counting the rhythms as we go bar by bar, but we can also play by ear, which means if you can sing it, you can play it. So it's a good piece of music for approaching both ways. And as we work through it, we're going to go over a ton of tips for getting slides to sound really good. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to play the first two bars from melody A. Now, as you work on this song, we're going to learn bar 1 and then we'll learn bar 2. But once you get those two bars learned together, you want to practice 1 into 2 because 2 bars in this tune equals 1 phrase. So that same concept applies. Once we learn 3 and 4, you want to practice 3 to 4. Okay, so don't just do 1 bar at a time. Put it into 2 bar phrases because that completes 1 entire phrase. So here's the first couple of bars, and we'll learn it after I demo it. So here's what it sounds like. Okay, so I already mentioned that it has an kind of a sustaining bass note that rings out over the entire sliding phrase. So that's the first thing you want to keep in mind as you play through this, is that you want to hit that bass note with enough force that it just continues to ring over the phrase. Now that doesn't mean that you want to kill the note. You don't want to go super hard and have it overpower everything or overshadow everything, nor do you want to hit it so light that it just falls into the background. So you just want to make sure you hit with enough pressure that it just rings out over the phrase. And the first thing is that we can see we're playing out of G, but we're not doing the entire chord. Instead, we're doing this. We're playing a G5. So to do this chord, we're going to basically use the index finger on the 2nd fret of string 3, middle on the 3rd fret of string 2. So we're ignoring string number 1. So if you think of the basic G, you're literally just flip-flopping those 2 fingers. Okay, and playing 4, 3, and 2. So as you work through this, the first part that you're going to be doing is making sure that you hit that G with enough force that it continues to sustain. We're literally just going to pick our way down. So we're going to go 4, 3, 2. Okay, so we have string 4, string 3, string 2. When we get to that 2nd string, that's when our slides start. So let's cover a couple basics, some of the fundamentals with sliding. Anytime you're doing slide, let's say we're going to go the 2nd string, 3rd to the 5th fret, just that. Anytime we're doing slides, we want to make sure that we keep pressure held down for the entire duration of the note's value. So let's say this note was an 8th note. We want to go 1 and. Okay, so we're just going 8th notes. Beat 1 to the end of 1. Okay, so if we have 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, let's just put it into a time frame of 3, right? So let's just try that, you and me together. We're just going to pluck the note on that 3rd fret, and we're going to slide up to the 5th fret. And the goal here is to make our slide sound smooth. We want to go ba-da. We don't want to have any kind of interruption in between the slide. We don't want it to be hearing that 4th fret, nor do we want to release pressure early because that'll cut the note short. So if I let go of pressure, if I let go holding down this note, you can hear that the note just dies, right? So you want to keep finger pressure down. You want to be on the fingertip. You're going to pick the note once and just slide up nice and smooth. Okay? Now let's see if we can try the reverse of that. Let's go from 5 to 3. Okay? So let's go back to that little time frame. We have 1 and 2, 3, reverse. And 2, 3, again. 1 and 2, 3, reverse. Okay, so always put stuff into little timing context. That makes practicing a lot easier. Now, the thing with this tune, if we put the tab back up, you can see that we're going from the first slide 3 to 5, but we're also going to 7. But you can see that it's all connected, right? We're not going pluck, pluck, right? Instead, we're plucking once and sliding to 5 to 7. Right? So that's the big trick right here. So I have 0, 2, 3, 5, 7. Okay? That's it put together. But for right now, let's just go back to this 3rd fret of string 2. And we're going to pluck once. I want you to slide to 5 and slide to 7. But keep the timing steady. So we just want it to be eighth notes. So keep it steady. 1, 2, 3. Just nice and steady like that. Ba, da, da. Remember, keep pressure held down as you're working through this. So I pluck the note once, go up to 5. It's still sustaining, and then I'm going to go up again, keeping finger pressure down the entire time, never lifting up. 3, 5, 7. Okay, let's try together just that. 3, 5, go. 3, 5, 7. And again. Again. And one more time. Okay, so key thing here is we want a nice smooth slide. We don't want to hear anything in between. We don't want to lift pressure up or else it cuts the note short. And the other trick is that we don't want to watch our finger, right? You ever watch like a chicken's head move or a bird, you know, it's very sporadic like that. We don't want to go 3 to 5 to 7. We don't want to do anything like that, right? Instead, we want to use our wide vision to look at the neck as a whole. We're looking at this part of the neck. We're basically looking from the 3rd to that 7th fret. Now, ukuleles have dots on the fretboard, and I want you to use that as kind of your guiding stone. So the ukulele does not have a uniform approach to how it lays out dots. So you're gonna have to look at the uke that you have. Some of them, the first dot begins on the 3rd fret. Some of them, it begins on the 5th fret. For my uke, it begins on the 3rd fret. So I have the first dot on 3, second dot on 5, third dot on 7, fourth dot on 10, fifth dot is, or the double dot's always going to be, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a double dot. That'll be the 5th one. And then the last dot is going to be the 15th fret, but we're not going that high. But you want to memorize the dots. First one, 3, next one, 5, third one is 7, fourth one is 10, fifth one, it's the double dot, that's 12, and then the last one is 15. Now, if I look at this as a whole, just my field of vision is basically what my hand is showing you. I'm kind of looking at this entire part of the fretboard. That way, as I move, I'm keeping my eyes on 3, 5, 7, and my fingers just kind of moving throughout that vision. Now, here's what's really cool about this. Eventually, you'll be able to do this without even looking. Right? And the same with going backwards. You'll just have the muscle memory intact that you won't even have to look. You'll just know by feel how far to go. And that's really cool. But for now, use the field of vision as your guide and use those dots to help you navigate, because there is quite a bit of jumps going on in this etude. So those are the core tips for sliding. So let's go back to learning this. So if we connect the dots, so far we have 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so we have 0, 2, 3, 5, 7. So you can think of it two ways. You can think of this as the rhythm that we're playing. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. So those are the two bars together. Or you can think of it as you can sing it, you can play it. That's playing by ear. Da 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 da, ba da ba da da da. Right? It's a very catchy thing. Now a third option too is you can just memorize the frets that you're playing. So if I have open, second, third, 5, 7, and then the last note is going to be 8. We haven't gotten there yet. But I can sing it as I play. 0, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 5, 3. That's another approach that you can do to get the rhythm down. So 3 different options. But going back to it, so we have 0, 2, 3, 5, 7. Now at this point, you're going to hold on to this note for a dotted quarter, so we're just going to sustain it for a little bit. Then on the end of 4, we're going to play the 8th fret. So just move up the middle finger to the 8th fret and pick that note. So together we have 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay, so let's see if we can try that, you and I together. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Nice. Now going into our second measure, what you're wanting to do is basically keep that middle finger where it's at. So we're kind of going to be using the first and the second finger to start out the second measure. So the second measure by itself sounds like this. So we have Sev, 8, Sev, 5, 3. Okay, so to start out this second measure, we're going to start with the index on 7 on string 2. So I want you to play that note. And again, it's going to be a dotted quarter, so we want to hold it for a beat and a half. So we have 1 and 2. Now on the end of 2, you're going to play the 8th fret again with that middle finger. And then you're going to go back to 7. And here's what's really cool, is that we're doing the same slide motion, but in reverse. So you're going Sev, 5, 3. And this time we're using the index finger. So everything that we talked about before applies for this. It's just in reverse. So Sev, 5, 3. So you can hit pause on this video and you can practice that. Okay, so you can practice going up, 3, 5, Sev, and then practice going down, Sev, 5, 3. Okay? But if you connect this second measure together, we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, so again, we can approach it multiple ways. We can sing the frets that we're playing, Sev, 8, Sev, 5, 3. That one works as well too. But let's see if we can try that together. Here we go, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Nice. So let's see if we can connect the two together, and that's how I want you guys to approach learning this tune, is to do two bars at a time, because that completes one phrase. So if we try measure 1 into measure 2, this is what it sounds like, and I'm going to get rid of the tab for this because I want you guys to focus on what the left hand is doing and getting those slides to sound good. So let's see if we can try together. Here we go, 3, 4. Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at measure number 3. So to tackle measure number 3, we're actually going to look at 3 and 4 together. So let me play those 2 bars, and then I want you to listen out to what you hear. Something should stand out. So did you catch it? If we look at measure number 3 by itself, it's identical to measure number 1. If we look at measure 4 by itself, it's almost identical to measure 2. The only difference is the last 2 notes. So if you look at those last 2 notes in measure number 4, instead of backtracking going 7, 5, 3, we're going 7, 8, 10. So our melody is walking up instead of back down. And again, we want to think of this song in 2 bars at a time, because that completes the entire phrase. So you can see and hear it's almost the same as measure 1 and 2. We're just changing the last 2 notes to move the melody up the string. So let's look at measure number 4. So we have Sev, 8, Sev, 8, 10. So let's go ahead and learn that. So it starts the same. We have 1, 2, and then at this point, we're going back to 7, but instead of going down for 5, 3, we're going up for 8, 10. But we have to do a hammer-on. So I want you to pluck 7 and hammer on with the middle finger, and then just slide up to 10. So we have Sev, 8, 10. And that's going to be the phrase that finishes up measure number 4. So putting it together, we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So let's see if we can try that one together. 3, 4, Sev, 8, Sev, 8, 10. And again, we can use the dots as our guiding stones. So what I mentioned earlier, keeping this bigger vantage point in mind, we can still apply that same rule with Sev being our 3rd dot to 10 being our 4th dot. Okay, so we can look at the grander scope of things as we work throughout measure 3 and 4. Okay, so let's see if we can try 3 and 4 together, you and I. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. Nice. Now if we backtrack, let's see if we can do 1 through 4. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty cool, right? Now, going into measure 5 and 6, this is really great because 5 and 6 is identical to 1 and 2. So you're just going to play measure 1 and 2 again. And then as you go into measure 7 and 8, here's what's going to happen. Let me play 7 into 8, and then we'll break it down. So it's going to start the same. If we look at 7, we have 1 and 2 and... So the first half is identical. So we're just walking down that G. 4, 3, 2, slide up to 5. Then here's where it changes. So we're going to be doing a pull off. So I want you to move that middle finger quickly after you do the slide. So 0, 2, 3, slide. I want you to move it quickly down to the 3rd fret of string 1. And you're going to do a pull off. So go ahead and leave that index finger in place to go to the 2nd fret. You're going to pluck the note 1 time. 3 pulls off to 2, pulls off to the open A. Okay, so if you tie that together, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and there's one more note to finish up this measure. It's going to be the 3rd fret of string 2 with the middle finger. Now, take a look at the rhythm. All 8th notes, so you want to keep that in mind. You don't want to rush anything. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So keep this one nice and steady. But the tricky part again is just going from 3 to 5 and then moving down to the 3rd fret of string 1. So you may want to just practice that little transition. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, you can see that this last note is going to be a slide going into the 8th measure. So if we look at the 8th measure, we're going to be plucking that 3rd fret, sliding up to the 5th fret, and you can see that it lasts for 2 beats, so it's a half note. And then just move back down to the 3rd fret to finish up the measure. So if we put that together, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's try 7 and 8 together. Here we go. 3, 4. Nice. So that covers the first 8 bars. So let's do this. Let's just cycle through everything. So things to keep in mind. Measure 1 and 2 is kind of like our base that we're playing out of. When you get into measure 3 and 4, the last 2 notes change in measure 4. So it's basically playing 1 and 2 again. And then when you get into 5 and 6, identical to measure 1 and 2. And then when you get into 7 and 8, we have the little change to end it. So let's take it phrase by phrase. Let's not worry about timing, but just focus on getting each phrase down. Remember, a phrase is 2 measures. So if we start with the first phrase, we have 3, 4. Nice. Going into measure 3 and 4. So remember, everything's the same up to the last 2 notes. 3, 4. Cool. Going into 5 and 6. Same as measure 1 and 2. 3, 4. And then 7 and 8, we have that change. Okay? Starting on beat 3 of 7. 3, 4. Nice. So that covers our first 8 bars for melody A. Now, it's going to switch to the 4 chord. It's going to go to the C chord, and that's what we're going to be playing the next part out of. So if I play measure 9 and 10, it'll sound like this. So now that we've heard it put together, those two bars, there's one thing that really stands out, and it's this. It's that the rhythm is identical to what we played for measure 1 and 2. So again, we're kind of harkening back to measure 1 and 2 being the base of what we're playing out of, but now we're playing out of a different harmony chord. We're playing out of C instead of G, but rhythmically it's the same thing. So we're playing 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Right, so we have the exact same rhythm that's happening. Nothing changes, so that's going to make this much easier to play and to learn. So the chord that we're playing out of is just a C5. So that means that we have the open C, middle finger is the 3rd fret of string 2, and ring finger is the 3rd fret of string 1. So we're not playing string 4 at all. So here's what I want you guys to do. We're going to walk down just like we did with measure 1, but we're starting this time on the C string. So play the C, take that middle finger, put it on the 3rd fret of string 2, then take the index finger, put it on the 2nd fret of string 1. Because you're going to do a hammer-on. You're going to hammer 2 to 3 on string 1. So you have open, 3rd fret of string 2, hammer 2 to 3 on string 1, and then you're going to lift this middle finger up and the index finger up, and we're going to slide up to the 5th fret. So you have 0, 3, 2, 3, slide. Okay, so open, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, hammers to 3rd, lift these two up, slide up to 5. So if you look at it and you remember the rhythm, we're doing it all as eighths. 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so let's just try up to there. 3, 4. 1 and 2 and slide. So when you get to 5, you're holding for that beat and a half. And then here's where it gets a little bit fancy. So instead of just going up like we did for measure 1 and playing the next note, you can see that has a little tiny note in front of it with a slide. That's called a grace note. So it just adds a little bit of flourish. So we're going to slide into the end of 4. So I want you to do a really quick slide, 5 to 7. So that's the key here, is a quick slide. Now if I count the rhythm, you can hear how it's fast. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and. So you can hear it happens right on that end of beat 4. So you're doing a quick 5 to 7 slide, okay? So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and. Okay, so let's try that together. 3, 4. Now, at this point, let's look at measure number 10. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, so another one that you can sing. Dum, ba, da, da, da. So a cool little melody that walks up. 5, 7, 10. So we're starting on 5 with our index finger. That's going to last a beat and a half. So we have 1 and 2. Then on the end of 2, play 7. And then we're going to go 5, hammer onto 7, and slide up to 10. So remember, pick one time. 5, 7, 10. So again, 5, 7, 10. Remember, rhythmically, it's the same as measure 2. So that rhythmic theme should be stuck in your head at this point. So let's try 10 again by itself. 3, 4. Okay, now if we backtrack, let's try 9 into 10. And remember, the big key thing here is that we want the C to sustain and ring over while we're playing the phrase. Okay, so make sure that you don't touch the string to mute it or anything like that. So let's try 9 into 10. 3, 4. Nice. Now if we go into the next couple measures, this is going to conclude playing out of C. So let me play 11 into 12. Now you'll notice that the first part of 11 is identical to measure number 9. So up to there, up to the very last note, is identical. So keep that in mind. So here's 11 into 12. So we have a cool little walk down that's happening. So let's go ahead and tackle the first part. So I already mentioned the first part is the same. So for 11, 1 and 2 and 3. So all that's identical. The key thing here is that after you do that slide, just move the index finger up to the 10th fret. And that's going to be what starts our walk down sliding melody. So we're going to play that note on the end of 4. So keeping the rhythmic theme intact. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. So let's try just that. 3, 4. Nice. Now keep your index finger here. If we look at the next measure, it's going to sound like this. So the first thing is we have a lot of slides, but the easy way to remember it is that it's all eighth notes, so we want to keep it even. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So keep the rhythm going constant throughout this. So start where you left off. 10 is going to slide to 7, so pick one time. And then you're going to pick again. 7 is going to go to 5. Okay, so let's backtrack. So we have 10, 7, pick again, 7, 5. Okay, now to finish it up, 5 goes to 2, so slide down, pick one more time. And then use your ring finger. You're going to go 5 to 7 on string 2. Okay, so we have 10, 7, 7, 5, 5, 2, 5, 7. Okay, so again. Okay, so just hit pause and get that memorized. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice smooth slides going down and up to finish. So let's try together. 3, 4. Cool. If we put it together, 11 into 12. 3, 4. Nice. Now going back into the last two phrases for this A melody. We're kicking back to playing out of G. And let me go ahead and just play through the first two. So this is 13 and 14. So you notice that those two measures are identical to 1 and 2. So 13 and 14 are the same as 1 and 2. And if I play the last two, 15 and 16, you're going to notice something else. So 15, tackle by itself. Up until you get to the ending of it. So it's going to be identical all the way till the end. The key thing here is that you look at that last note. It ends on the 3rd fret of string 2. But instead, you don't see it with a slide mark at all. You're just going to play as a regular picked note. So that's the only difference. Everything is the same, except that last note, even though it's the same G note that we did, we're not going to slide up to 5 for measure 16. Instead, we're just going to play it as a regular note. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now if you look at 16, you're going to lift it up, play the open E, and then put it back down, and 3 and 4 to do this cute little ending. So let's learn measure number 16. It's going to be the open E, so lift that middle finger up, 1, 2. On the end of 2, put it back down, play the 3rd fret, and then use the index finger while keeping this anchored. So keep the middle finger where it's there, keep it planted. Use the index finger to play the 2nd fret on string 3, hammer on with the ring to the 4th fret, and then play the 3rd fret on string 2 again. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. But you notice it stays anchored as soon as you put it back down. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay? So let's try that one together. 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Nice. If we backtrack, let's try 15 into 16. 3, 4. Cool. And if we go back even further, let's try 13 to 16. Remember, 13, 14, same as 1 and 2. 3, 4. Cool. And you can see I put a little bit of vibrato on that last note, and you can put it in notes sparingly throughout this piece of music as well. And vibrato for this one should be just very subtle. It shouldn't be overpowering. And vibrato is just keeping finger pressure held down. Same concept as slides. And we're just going to go subtle up and down motion. And that's basically vibrato in a nutshell. Now, if you want a super in-depth explanation with multiple exercises for working on different types of vibrato, I'll put a link to our lesson on vibrato in the description box below. But that'll conclude everything for melody A. So the way that you want to approach it, again, is 2 bars at a time completes one phrase, but just break it into sections from there. So we learned measure 1 through 8. That's what we tackled first. And then it went to the C chord for measure 9, 10, 11, 12. So the next 4 bars were played out of C. And then it went back to the G chord for 13, 14, 15, 16. So the final 4 bars were again played out of the G chord. So you may want to tackle this by just getting 1 through 8 down, then working on the C section, so 9 through 12, and then working on the G section, 13 through 16. So tackle it in those little sections before trying 1 through 16 in its entirety. That'll always make it a lot easier to play through. But if I play through everything, and we'll call it out phrase by phrase, starting at the beginning for measure 1 and 2, we have 3, 4. C chord. Okay, so that's a good gist of what everything sounds like played throughout the 16 measures. So remember, break it down like I laid out before. Don't try to go everything from the get-go. Now, as we go into melody B, we're going into a section that's just finger picking. So this is literally put into the arrangement just to give it more of a song structure. So no slide work, just straight up finger picking. So let me play the first 4 bars. That'll give you an idea of what it sounds like. Okay, so there's measures 1 through 4. So you kind of get the vibe of what this theme sounds like. So we're kicking off with a chord that's a little bit tricky to form. It's going to be a G minor with an added 9. So to form this chord, take the ring finger, put it on the 3rd fret of string 4, middle goes on the 2nd fret of string 3, pinky's the 3rd fret of string 2. A string will be open. So we're going to pick our way down and then back up with this. So we're going to go 4, 2, 3, 1, and then to string 2. So rhythmically wise, 1 and 2 and 3. So that last note is a half. So let's see if we can play that together. 3, 4. 3, 4. Done. Okay? Now, go into the next measure. The only thing that's going to change here is that we're going to take the bass note, this 3rd fret on string 4, and you can do one of 2 ways. You need to change it to the 2nd fret. So you can move that ring finger back to the 2nd fret of string 4, and you're playing the same thing. So same movement, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. Now, that's one way you can do it. What I like to do is this reach around. So you can see it says TH on the chord, so that is thumb. So I like to just use my thumb, and when I do this, I'm hugging the neck. So that's the key thing right here. We don't have any of this U-shaped gap going on. Instead, we have to hug the neck to reach around to grab that second fret. To me, that's a lot easier than trying to do some kind of weird finger movement with my ring, but it's up to you. Either one works. Now you may be asking why even use these fingers when I could do something like this. Well, that's a good question. As you can see in measure 19, if we put this one up, it goes back to 3, 2, 3, but we have to add that index finger down for the first fret. Which brings up a good point. We're playing out of this G minor. If you get rid of this finger right here, you see we're playing just out of that stock G minor voicing. Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves though, let's go back and let's try 17 into 18. Your call on if you want to use the ring to go back or the thumb. Okay, so here we go. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Nice. Now going into this 19th measure, so we're going to be playing back out of the first chord shape, so that G minor with the add 9. And the only difference is once we get to the bottom, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're going to take that index, put it down on the first fret of string 1, play that note, and then pull off to the open A, and then walk our way back up. So second string, third string. Rhythmically, all eighths. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, let's try. 3, 4. Nice. Going into the next measure, measure 20, you can see this is ending number 1. Ending number 1 kicks us back to using that reach around for the thumb or moving that middle finger down. For me, I'm going to use the thumb. And you can see that it's identical to measure number 18. Okay, so we're again 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. So keep that in mind. That's ending number 1. So if we cycle through those 4 bars, let's give that a shot. So we have 3, 4. Okay, now when we get to there, you're going to repeat. You're going to play the same 17, 18, 19. But to end it, you're going into ending number 2, which is just 2 chords. Okay, so the first chord is a D7 sus4. So basically, we left off on this measure. So when we get to that, when we play that, and it's all said and done, you're going to lift this finger up, we don't need it anymore, and move the middle finger directly up to the 4th string, 2nd fret. You can strum that chord down, and then just make it the Hawaiian D7, so 2, 0, 2, 0, and that'll finish it up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. So it doesn't get any simpler than that. So you just have to memorize the form, basically. So we just have ending 1 and an ending 2. So if we cycle through melody B in its entirety, this is what we get. Let's try it together. 1, 2, ready, go. Nice. So after this, guys, you're going back into melody A. Now here's the thing. You just have to memorize the form or the order of it again. So it's 8 bars that you're going to be playing, but the first 6 of them are identical to measure 1 through 6. So there's the first 3 phrases, right? Here's the last 2 bars, the last phrase. I didn't play the last note, right? It's just that G note. because instead we're subbing out the very last note for a higher voicing of G to give it a nice resolution. So here's the thing. You play measures 1 through 6 again. That's the first part. And then when you play, you get to the last 2 bars for this ending of melody A, you're playing measure 15 and 16. Except don't play the last note, which is this G on string 2, the 3rd fret. You're going to sub it out for this chord, a higher voicing. So to make this, you're going to take the index, lay flat on 10, string 1 and 2, middle is 11 on string 3, and the G string above is open. So I would add a little retardando to this section 2 to slow it down. So if we try these last 2 bars together, we have 3, 4. Right, so just a nice gradual slow down to give us a resolution for the tune. But that's it. So again, 1 through 6, and then you're playing 15 and 16, subbing out the last note for the higher voicing of G. And that's the entire tune, guys. So this etude was a perfect study for working on slides and really getting that technique nice and crystal clear and sounding really, really great. Slides are a cool way to add a nice bit of coloring to notes. So always a fun thing for me to throw into arrangement writing, just general day-to-day playing, because it really adds a lot. You know, you can play licks all day long, but if they always use the same attack, right, if they're all picked single notes, Sep 5, Sep 5, Sep 5, you know, it just sounds very vanilla. But if you add one little slide, it puts a little bit of color into your playing. And that's what makes all the great players stand out, is that they do just that little tiny bit. It's like putting sprinkles on ice cream. Just a little change makes a big difference. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I want to remind you, if you want to get the tabs to print off and keep for your records, you can do so by clicking this link or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for fingerpicking etude number 23. You can literally type 23 in the search box, or you can type slides. That will pull up the lesson as well. Don't forget, on that page is the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can hit play, watch the tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.